So I'll just do a recap of what we did in the last section for Power Query. So Power Query is the data transformation and mashup engine within Power BI. So basically, Power Query is used to connect to data sources. And most times your data is unclean, you need to transform it and shape it. So Power Query, you can use it to also transform this data and clean it up. So it helps you pre-process your data. And Power Query uses a graphical user interface. So in most instances, you just drag and drop stuff. You don't need to write code or stuff. There are some advanced things you might need some codes for, but in most cases, right, the user interface is enough. Just drag and drop. And Power Query runs on a formula language called M. So M is what runs the Power BI engine. So most times you drag and drop, but under the hood, Power Query would compute the M code or M formula used to carry out the transformation. So for those who didn't join the Excel class or haven't watched the Excel video, we actually went through Power Query in Excel. So most of what we did in that section also applies to Power Query in Power BI. So I would recommend you to check out the video. So I'll attach the link in the description for this video. So without much ado, I'll just open up Power BI. So give me a second. So I'll open up Power BI. So this is my Power BI interface. So when you launch Power BI, right, you have something like this. So you have the home tab, and by default, you come to this view. This is the report view. So you can see, right, where I put my mouse, this is a report view. So this is where you plot your visual or you add your charts. Then you also have the data view. So once you bring in data into Power BI, you see the tables, the person in this view. And then this last view, the model view, we'll see all these snippets. But once you bring in data, right, and create connections, you can see your models here. So that's the report view. So for this section, we are focusing on Power Query. And if you look on the home screen, you'll see this tab, right? Add it as your reports. So import data from Excel, from SQL Server, from a blank table, and sample data sets. So these are all examples of sources you can bring data from. These are just the common ones, right? But you also have several other sections. So let's say I want to check out other sources of data. What I'll do is I'll come on to the top left where you have get data. So this is where you could see the different data sources. So you have common data sources. So you see Excel workbook, data sets, etc. Then when I come down to more, right, I launch this, click on this more icon. So I click on more. This brings up a tab that shows you several other data sources. Yeah, awesome. So you can see you have files. So this Excel, CSV files, XML, JSON, etc. You also have databases. So different kinds of databases, SQL, Access, IBM, Postgres, etc. You also have Power Platform. You also have Azure data sources. They have online. So these include SharePoint, Store Analytics, Salesforce, etc. Then you have other sources. So other sources can be websites, SharePoint lists, Python, R scripts, etc. So I want us to go through common data transformations, right? So for this, we'll work with an Excel file. So I'll open up the Excel file now. So so I have this file called debt data. So I'll open this up. Yeah, so this is an Excel file, right? And these sort of a report for a sales team. So you have different dates. This is the 1st of January 2018. So this is data for different salespersons. You have James, and in parentheses 1769. That's the salesperson ID. You have Tim 2213. That's his salesperson ID, etc. So this salesperson, they sell across different regions. You have the North region, East region, South and Western region. So you have the different sales numbers. James did 373 sales in the North region, 5209 in the East region, and so on. So this is for January 1st, right? And you have the totals across all the columns. Then the next day, this is the 2nd of January 2018. You have the same reports, right? For salespersons also. So across different regions, right? The same thing on the 3rd. And you have this for about 7 days, right? So this data, right? Let's say we want to analyze this data, we want to create a report from this data. So let's say across the 7 days, we want to see the sales for each salesperson and across all the regions. In this current format, right, we can't really do much with this data, right? It's pretty much isolated. How do I combine data for January 1st with 2nd down till the 7th, and then analyze it to bring out insight, right? In this current format, we can't really do much. So we need to transform this data into the right structure. And on this next sheet, sheet 1, this has the proper format, right? That this data will be best suited for analysis. So you have employee ID, you have dates, you have region, and you have sales. In this format now, right, I can easily calculate the total sales for a region, for example, or for an employee, for example, right? So how do we go from this to this, right? So you could do this in Excel manually, right? You bring everybody's names and do stuff, but that's very tedious. And also, right, it's not automated. Once you bring in new data, you have to repeat the same process again. But with Power Query, we can find a way to automate the process, right? Whereby we just do the cleaning once and we build like a pipeline, right, that has all the data cleaning steps. And when new data comes in, just refresh, one button click, and the whole data is updated, right? So let's see how we can achieve this. We can go from this to this using Power Query. So first things first, I'll come on to Power BI and I'll connect to this data source. So note, right, this sheet that has our data is called sales sheet. So I'll come on to Power BI. And the file I want to work with is an Excel file. If you look at the file, right, this .xlsx, an Excel file. So we could use this option, right, import data from Excel. I could click on this, I could come on here and choose Excel workbook, the same thing. So I'll choose Excel workbook, and it prompts me to open up the data source. So I think, yeah, this is a folder for query. No, not this, apologies. No. So I come on here, Power BI, Power Query. So this is the file, right? Dirty data.slsx. So I open this up. So with Power Query, right, I'm connecting to my data source. And you see it's connecting, right? Trying to establish a connection. So this is the part, this is the navigator, right? So this giving us like a preview of the data in our data source, the Excel file, right? So it's coming up. You see it in a bit. If I click on table 1, you should see a preview of table 1. Yeah, so this table one and the sales and so this is a sales sheet, right? This is what we're interested in. We want to connect the data and point it up. And sheet 1, this is the preview, right? They already cleaned and processed data. Table 1 and sheet 1, they're the same thing. Just that this is a sheet, this is a table. table one is on sheet one, right? You have a table on the sheet. So these two are the same thing. But what we are interested in, right, is the sales sheet. This is the data I want to go in. So I'll click on this. I'll choose this, right? But if for some reason you want to connect to multiple tables, you just check those tables, right? But for this analysis, I want just a sales sheet. So I'll uncheck this, and leave just a sales sheet selected. So when I come down here, right, you have this option to load, transform data, cancel. In most instances, right, you want to click on transform data. It means you want to clean up your data and check if there are anything, right, that you might need to fix. When you load your data, it means that you're sure that it's clean from the source. But in most times, right, you want to transform your data and check it and make any changes that might need to be made. So I'll click on transform data, and this should open up the Power Query editor. Yeah, awesome. So here we have the Power Query editor. So before I look at the data, let's just go through the different tabs here, right? So here you have the home tab. So you can see different, this is source. You can connect to more data sources here, right? This shows recent sources. And you can enter data, put in a manual table, you see what's in subsequent sections. And all these, I mean, I won't look at all this for now. So you also have some other things, right? You could choose columns, remove columns. So we'll go through all these in a bit when we start transforming our data. But this is what the view looks like. Where you have a home tab, you have a transform tab, add column, view, tools, help, etc. So let's look at our table. So you have this query, right? The sales query. And this is simply our data source we're connected to, right? The table. So I want us to look at this, the right-hand side, right? Where you have applied steps. So here we have applied steps, right? So Power Query is smart in that so what I will do is currently this is the most recent step that's applied, change step, right? And you can go back, so you can check the different steps that have been applied, right? So this is what we did initially, right? Source. So if you look in this formula tab, we mentioned that Power Query runs on M code, right? If you look in this formula tab, this is the M code, right? That's connecting to the workbook. So if you look at this part here, right? This is simply the part on my laptop where this work is located. On the Power Query subfolder on the data, and you have the file name, right? Data.slsx. So this is just simply the parts. And the formula is what Excel.workbook. So connect to an Excel workbook that's called what? This is the part of the Excel workbook. Connect to it, right, and bring it in. The next step, right? All these are done by Power Query by default. So this Excel workbook contains several sheets, sales sheet one, table one. The next step, what Power Query does is what? It navigates to the sheet I selected, which was the sales sheet, right? So he's saying what? For all the sheets on this file, connect to the sales sheet, right? So this is the sales sheet here now. And you can see this is the exact same thing we have, right? The Excel file is the exact same thing, the Excel file, right? You have sales for this, right? You have about five columns, right? These are all blank. Then you have a value here, etc. So if you look at the file we have here, it's the exact same thing. So so the next thing, right? Our table currently has no headers. So Power Query is trying to predict what's best for the data, right? So it looks at the data, right? And it says that what, okay, there's a value on this first row. It then tries to what? Promote headers, right? So it tries to make this first row to become the header, right? So it takes this first row as the header. So it promotes the header. But you can see this is not accurate, right? This is not the actual header. In fact, our data has no headers currently. we need to create the headers ourselves. So the next thing is it now tries to predict the type of data, right? So you have different data types, text, etc. So what we'll do now is, right, these steps, and we'll take them off. So I'll cancel this chain type, right? I'll take off the headers also because my data has no headers. Power Query is trying to do what's best for the data, right? But most times that's not what's needed, right? So you try to cross-check and come in where needed. So I'll cancel this step, right? So I have this now. This is the exact same thing we have on the Excel sheet, the exact same thing. So I would try to clean this up, right, myself using suitable logic. So first things first, right? Let's look at this first column. So you have the dates, right? Everything from here to here, from this first row to this seventh row, right, is for this date, 1st of January. Everything from here to here is for 2nd of January 2018, right? So what we can do is we can create a new column for just the dates, right? Just the dates. So what I can do is I'll make a new column, right, where I'll put in all the dates. So I will try to separate 2018 0101, 2018 0102 into a new column. So I can have a column for the dates. So what we can do, right, in Power Query, when you're trying to make a change that leads to a new column, right, you come on towards this tab called Add Column. So come on to this tab, right, called Add Column. So once you come to Add Column, any change you make here, right, will result to creating a new column. So what I want to do is I want to split this column, right, and extract all the dates into a new column. And in Power Query, right, this is done using the split columns option, right? Split columns. So you know what? We can do this also on the transform tab. No need to use the add column. So I'll come to transform tab, right? And if you look here, right? Let me annotate. When you look here, you see this option, right? Split column. So it's used to what splits a column, right? Based on a parameter you specify. So let's see how we can do that in Power Query. Alternatively, I could come to this column and right click, right? And when I come down, you also see an option to split column also, right? So yeah, most time you can do the same thing in multiple ways. So I'll come on here and let me do, I right click here, come on to the option to split column. And if you look at all the dates, right, you have sales for, you have a colon, and then 2018 0101, right? The same drill also, you have sales for a colon, 2018 0102, sales for a colon, right? So what separates the text sales for and the date is a colon. So we use that logic, right, to split this column and extract the dates. So I'll come on here, right click, split column by, so you can split by different parameters. It could be a delimiter, number of characters. So I could say split the first 3 characters, for example, by position, etc. For this instance, right, what makes sense for our end results is to split by delimiter. So I'll choose the option by delimiter. And for this, by default, you have the space, right, for the delimiter. But instead of a space, I'll come on here and choose a custom delimiter, right? If you look, okay, sorry, you have a colon here. I'll choose a colon rather. Colon, what I'll choose. So a colon separates the data and the text. So I'll choose a colon, right? Then you have to split by leftmost, rightmost each occurrence. So this is useful when you have maybe you have multiple columns, right, in the text you want to extract, and you want to specify the exact one to split that. You could choose this. But in our case, since it's just one column that we have, anyone works. I'll just leave it by the default, and I'll hit OK. And you can see, right, this creates a new column. And if you look here, right, we'll split. So we went from So remember, I applied steps. You could go back and see what data looked like before. So here goes the previous steps. This column by the limiter, right? This is what we had. So we had previously, right? This, and we went from this, right, to split by the column. We're able to extract all the dates, right? So these are dates, right? And all these rows, they have no dates there. Down to what? Row 9. This is the date also. So the next thing we'll do is remember what I said earlier, right? All the data from row 1 to row 7 is for what? This date, 2018 01 01 01. Everything from here down to here is for what? 2018 01 02. So using this, right, what I can do is I can simply fill this column down, right? So in Power Query, you have a transformation that's called fill down or fill up. So fill down means that you look to the column, right? Every column that's empty, you fill it with the value that's you fill it with the first non-value above it. So in that instance, right, when I apply fill down here, all those null values that are here, I'll replace them with what? The first non-null value, which is 2018 01 01. And that makes sense, right? The same thing, so when I come here, all those null values, right, will be replaced by what? The first non-value above them, which is what? 2018 01 02. So I'll click on this column, right? And we could just do a right click. And when you come down, right, you see the option to fill. So you can fill down, you can fill up. So I'll choose fill down. So one thing, right, most times when you make changes, right, Power Query will try to what? Change the type of data. So I'll just cancel this step for now. I'll take it off, right? Since our data is not clean yet, just take it off. So let's do the fill down step. So I right click here, I come down to fill and fill down. So let's see what happens. So you can see, right, we went from this, right? We replaced all the null values with one above it, and we have this now. So you can see all those null values were replaced with 2018 01 02. And then when you come here, right, all the null values below it are replaced by 2018 01 02. Just like that, 01 03, 01 04, down to 07, right? So we're making progress. We'll still have some work to do. So we've taken off the dates to a new column, right, and filled it down. So when you look at this column 1, for example, right, there are some rows that are not relevant, right? Some rows are not relevant. For example, this sales for example, it doesn't make any sense, right? So what I want to do is take off all the unwanted rows. Sales for example, is not relevant. This total also is not relevant. I can compute the total, right? By adding everything here, I can get the total. So I don't really need it in my table. I can pick it up also. So we could take off all these sales for total null values, right? We take them off so they're not useful. So for that, right, just like your normal Excel table, click on the drop down here, and I'll come on here and uncheck the unwanted values. So I uncheck this null value. I don't need it. And I also uncheck sales for total, right? I don't need all those rows. It's okay. Cool. So what I can do next is so this values here, right? It contains the names and the salesperson ID. So I can also create a new column, right, for the salesperson ID. So all the names, right, the same format, name, then in parentheses you have what? The numbers. So we could use the parentheses, right, the one in the middle, as our criteria to split these rows. So I can split this column, right, by what? The left-hand parentheses. That way, all the numbers will come into a new column, right? Since all the rows are in the same format. So our logic would be, we'll split using the left parentheses, right, as our delimiter. So the same drill as before, click on this column, right click, and I'll come down to split column by delimiter. And for these, right, what we want is not here, the left parenthesis. So I'll click on custom and I'll type it in myself, right? So I'll type this left parenthesis. And we have only one occurrence here, right? Only one is here. So we can leave this on the default and it hits OK. So you can see, right, we're able to extract the so I took off null, I took off sales for total. Let's take this off also, salesperson. Take it off also. Don't need it. You can rename the columns later. And then the next thing you do is you came here and split the column by delimiter. And we use a custom delimiter, which was the left parenthesis. Right, this. And hit OK. So we have this, right? Cool. So these numbers, right, they contain a right parenthesis at the end. Those bracket end, they are unwanted, right? We just want the number 1769. I don't need that ending bracket. So you can take it off, right? So in Power Query, you also have the step, right, called replace values. So we could replace all those ending parentheses, right, with nothing. So just replace it with nothing, means what? Delete them. So I'll click on this column, right? And like I said, most times in Power Query, right, you can do so most times in Power Query you can do the same thing, right, using multiple methods. So for this, right, I could do a right click and choose replace values, or I could come on here, right, on this transform tab, you see this option to replace values, right? So either of those methods work. So I can right click, come down to replace values. And what value am I trying to replace? Value to find, that's the right parenthesis. Replace with what? Nothing, right? Leave it empty. So it means what? Delete all those right parentheses. So I hit OK. You can see, right, been able to go from this. So this change step, don't really need step. We'll do it at the end when we're done cleaning our data. Power Query just add that by default. It's trying to predict data type, but don't need that. So replace value, right? So I have this, and I've been able to extract the salesperson ID, right? So you're making good progress. I have the name, I have the salesperson ID, I have the dates. And then next we have this columns, right? These are the columns for the regions. So this looks clean to an extent, but we need to do some further transformations. So first things first, what I will do is I'll try to rename the columns, right? So we can look at the previous examples, right? This first column is the salesperson ID. So I'll come on here and rename this column. So I'll click on this, and you can right click, right, and choose, I think they have rename somewhere, right? So I could call this salesperson. Or you could just double click, right, twice. These are sales person ID. And for these, right, when I come here and look at the previous view, this is the north region. So I'll come on here and call this north. And similarly, check previous steps. This is the east region, right? So I'll come on here and call this east. And the last two, southwest. So this is south, and the last one is west, south. And this northeast, south, there's west. Let's try. I think we have 5 again. Let's do the last one.
Excuse me, sir.
Yeah, I can hear you.
So the north region is actually the date.
Okay. Apologies. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Thank you for pointing that out. So this is dates. Yeah, dates. Thank you for pointing out. This is dates. So this is north, and this east, and this south, and this west. Yeah, perfect. So we have our columns, right? Name, salesperson, ID, date, northeast, southwest. So when analyzing data, right, in Power BI, so if you have an opportunity to make your to reduce your number of columns, right, it's best to always pick that. So Power BI data model, it works best, right, with smaller columns and longer tables, right? So it's best for you to have 3 columns and 1,000 rows than to have 20 columns and 100 rows, right? You get what I mean? So in Power BI, right, it's always best if you have any opportunity to reduce the number of columns you have, right, to take it, because it would greatly improve your data model. So for this, right, if you look here, we have regions, north on one column, east on one column, south, and then west. What if I can combine these 4 columns, right, into one column? So I have a column for region, north, east, south, west, right, just like that. And then another column that contains all the values for the different regions, right? So let's see how we can achieve this in Power Query. So there's what we call pivoting columns and unpivoting columns, right? So I explained all this in the Power Query video for Excel. So you can check that video out so you understand how it works. But pivoting columns, right, is simply you have small columns, you want to increase the number of columns, right? And the reverse, on pivoting, you have several columns, you want to reduce them, right, into smaller number of columns. So for these, right, we are doing the unpivoting step. We are trying to go from 4 columns, right, to 2 columns. One column has the region, the other column has the attributes or values. So for these, right, you can do it in 2 ways. So I could say, click on the salesperson column. I will hold Shift and click on the date column, right? So this is me highlighting these 3 columns. I want to unpivot the other columns, right? So this means what? When I come here, right, transform tab, when you look up here, you see unpivot columns. When I click on this, right, you have unpivot columns, unpivot other columns, unpivot only selected columns. So here I've selected salesperson, ID, and date. I want to unpivot the other columns that are selected. So I'll choose the option that says what? Unpivot other columns, right? So let's see what happens when I click on this. So I click on this. And you can see, right, we went from 4 columns, north, east, south, and west, right? And pay attention to the data shape, right? Look at the bottom left. You have 7 columns and 40 rows, right? 7 columns and 40 rows. Now, when I unpivot the data, we now have what? 5 columns and 140 rows. So we went from 7 columns, 40 rows to 5 columns and 140 rows. Look at the bottom left, you see that, right? So you're able to create a column for all the regions and a column for their values, right? So here, for example, we have James, right? On 1st of January, this is not value 373. When you come here, right, you have James, North region, right? This 373. Same drill also, right? This James also for the East 5209. when you come here, right, on a new row, you have this James, right? This region 5, just like that, right? It just goes from several columns to what? Smaller number of columns, but longer rows. So what we can do is we name this, right? I'll call this region, and I'll call this sales. So our data is almost clean, right? One last thing, I can then change the data type. So if you do it yourself, right, click on this this ABC sign here, right? And you can come here and choose the type of your data. Decimal number for currency, right? Click decimal for currency also, whole numbers, percentage, dates, etc. So what I like to do, I just click on the first column, hold shift, the last column. So I could have Power Query help me detect data type, right? So transform tab, you see option that says what? Detect data type. So most times, right, it's often correct once you clean your data. So I'll choose this option, right? And Power Query has that step. So salesperson in the text column ABC, that's correct. ID is whole number as 123, that looks correct. This is a date column, right? You have date type. So this looks correct also. Region is text and sales was whole numbers, and this looks correct. So you'll be able to go from this, right? From this to this. So once you're done, I could just load this data, right? Click on apply. So I'm done cleaning my data in Power Query. I want to load my clean and transform data to Power BI, and I can now start making charts or making my data model. So I'll click close and apply, right? And this loads my clean data into Power BI. So you can see it's creating the tables, loading my data, right? And this is my clean. So when you look at the top right fields, right? This is my table, my columns, date to salesperson ID. And when you come to the data view, right, you can see our table. So salesperson ID down to sales. And on the model view, I have just one table. So you show one table. But if you have several tables, you can try to join them by their common fields. And we'll see all the subsequent sections. So for example, I could maybe make a simple chart. Let me do a bar chart, right? Stack bar chart that shows regions and their sales, for example, right? So you can see a simple chart showing you different regions and their sales, right? So let me go back to Power Query. Or you know what? Let me do something. Let me make it a table so we'll see what I'm doing clearly. So you have these regions, right? East, south, west, north. And when I come down to this also, right? Let's look at the most recent dates. Sunday, January 7th, 2018, right? That's the most recent date. So what if this data, right, is being updated for the next day? So the sales person that makes this report, right, it comes on the 8th of January and updates this data with a new data point, right? So I have something here. Let's say this is a new data point, or this data is a new data point. So he or she comes on this date, the next day, right, and updates the sheet with the data for the 8th of January 2018. So I need to save this file. So I save this, right? Save. So if I'm trying to update my reports in Power BI, do I go through all those steps of cleaning my data in Power Query again? So the answer is no, right? So the beauty of Power Query is that you're making a data pipeline, right? So once you bring in new data, it follows the same pipeline, the same steps that you've applied, and updates your data. So let's try to update our data, right, and make it up to date, recent. So you have the total as 785,653. If I come on here, right, on the home tab and hit refresh, So get latest data by refreshing of the visuals, right? So I click on refresh, for example, right? So let's see what happens. So you can see, right, it's now updated. We now have what 954,352. So it's added the data for what the 8th of January, right? When I come on here, previously our last date was the 7th of January. When I check the date now, right, you see it's now plotting what the date for January 8th, 2018. So this is very useful, right? It helps you work very, very efficiently and effectively, and also saves you a lot of time. So let's do another example. So for this example, right, let's use Power Query to connect data on the web. So you can also do web scraping with Power Query, right? So let's say I work in a crypto startup, right? And I've been given a task, data analysis, to create a simple report that shows all the different crypto assets, their market value, their prices, etc. Right? And it's meant to be updated every day, right? So every day, someone comes look at the reports, you can see up-to-date data for the crypto market. So you have several websites, right, that has this data. I think you have Coin Market, you have CoinGecko. For this example, I'll use CoinGecko for my example. So I'll come to www.coingecko.com, right? CoinGecko.com, yeah. So this is showing cryptocurrency price by market cap, right? So when you come here, you can see this table. It has the ranking of all the assets, right, based on their market cap. You have the coin name, right, and the initial BTC, ETH. You have the price of the assets, then 1 hour change, 24-hour change, 7-day change, then the trading volume currently, right, the market cap, and you can see the trend over the past 7 days. I think there are other columns, but they're not showing here, right? So what you can do, right, as an analyst, you can come on here, right, and copy this whole table, right, copy everything, and take it to your BI, to maybe Excel, for example, right? I can copy this whole table, right? So I copy this table, for example, and take it to Excel. So I use my Excel file, I come here and paste the data, right? So while that's loading, let me go back to the website. So the issue now is that when you look here, right, you have several coins, over 1,000 coins right here. You have 130 pages, right? And this data is being updated, right, real time. So it changes. What you have today will be different what you have tomorrow. So you're trying to make a report. It means every time you come here, you need to come on here, and this is taking time to load. So it means anytime you make a report, right, you need to come on here and copy data for 130 pages and update them, right? That's a lot of work, a lot of manual strenuous work. So what if we can find a way, right, to connect this website, right, and build a single pipeline, right, once, and then whenever we come and refresh that report, and it updates with the most recent data, right, on this website. So let's see how we can do that with Power BI. So for these, right, there's something that's important to note. So let me show you something. When I come down to this page number, right, note the URL, coingecko.com, right? If I click on page 2, so see the URL, right, is updated. It's not showing that what you're currently on page 2, question mark page equal to 2. So this is important, right? If I come on here and change the 2 to 1, right? So page 2 is what 1012 200. page one, which we on previously, that's from 1 to 100, right? So this is the same thing as what you see when you come to the website. So for the purpose of what we're trying to do, right, we want to have the URL in this format where we can try to look through the pages, right? But first things first, let me just copy this URL. Page equals to 1. So I copy this, right? And I come to Power BI. So what I can do is, let me make a new report for this. So I click on new, make a new report for this. Yeah, so this is the report we copied from the website, right? So you do this for 130 pages. That's a lot of work. So I'm opening a new report where we can make this using Power BI. And just to clarify, right, this exact same thing, you can do it in Excel also. We have Power Query in Excel, and I recommend you check out the video we did for the Power Query in Excel class. So I'll cancel this tab. Yeah, cool. So I want to get data from the website. So I'll come on to get data as before. And you have the option, right, for web. Import data from the web page. So I'll choose this option, web. So this is where you put in your URL, and I'll paste my URL here, right? Echo.com, page equals 1, and I hit OK. So it's connecting to the website. It opens up the navigator where you can see a preview of the website and the data on it. So this might take some time depending on the strength of your network connection and also how busy the website is. So this is taking some time, right? But when you try this out, I'm sure it might be faster, right, or slower, depending on your connection. So I think it's up now. So here, right, you can see preview of different data on this website. So when I click on this, for example, just to see a preview, click on table 1, for example. This shows me data preview, right? So if you look at this, right, it's similar to what we saw on the website. So this table view, if I click on web view, right, you see a web preview. So I'm sure that I'm on the correct website, right? So this Bitcoin first, Ethereum second, 16,850, 1, 2 something, right? And this table is also similar. Bitcoin 16,850 ETH, just like that. So I'm on the correct web page, right? But then it's best to also go through all the different tables to be sure you're working with the right or the best one. So most times you might have the same table showing multiple times. One might be updated, one might be partially updated. So this one looks okay, but let's see other tables are here. So this table too, it looks different. Let me see. Okay, it looks good, right? But then I can see that there are no column headers here. That's extra work for me, so I'll just skip this. This looks wrong. So just go through everything, right? But from what I can see, table 1 looks like the best fit. Yeah, so I'll work with table 1, right? So I'll check this box, table 1, And as before, right, I'll click on transform data, right, transform data. So we should open up the Power Query editor. Yeah, awesome. So this shows me data rights for page 1 of, so you can see 12 columns, right? Bottom left, you see the number of columns, 12 columns, 100 rows. But we have over 1,000 points. This is just one page that was brought in. So let's do some cleaning to this page before we figure out how to bring in other pages. So this column looks good. So this table is now, I can see that there are a lot of spaces here. And if I take a guess, I think the fault is from this column, the coin column. So you have several white spaces between Bitcoin and BTC, for example. That's affecting the other columns here. So you have price, this looks okay. So I'll take off this chain type stuff. I'll do that myself when I'm done playing the data. So this last 7 days, right, is the chart that's not coming in, so it's not useful. I'll choose this last 7 days. Hold control. This first column is also empty. I'll choose it also. And I'll remove this. So right click, right? Hold control, choose those 2 columns. They are highlighted. I'll come here and click remove columns. So I took off the last 7 days and the first column since they are empty and won't add any value to our analysis. So the next thing I want to do, right? So like I said, I'm seeing several spaces in this table. And I think the issue is from this coin column. So what I can do is if I do a right click, right, on the coin column, I come down to transform. So you have some steps. For example, you could lowercase the whole text in this column, uppercase, proper case, trim, clean, etc. So this step, right, clean, this is used mostly for data from websites, right? Where you have several characters that might make your data look unclean. If I click on clean, let's see what happens. So you can see, right, it picks up all those weird spaces, and now the table looks the right structure. But the issue now is that there's no space between the coin name and the abbreviation, right? So we need to find a way to clean this without losing that distinction between the coin name and the let me see, yeah, between the coin name and the initial. So I'll cancel this step, right? Let's try to use an fancy ways to do this. So what I can do is, right, I mentioned earlier, you're trying to make a new column, you use the add column tab, right? So I'll click on the add column tab. And for these, right, I'll choose the very first option, which is column from examples. So this is similar to Excel, right? And you see what I mean with it, where you could use samples to get and then flash fill downwards. So this is similar to flash fill in Excel. So I'll choose column from examples and all columns from selection. So I want to work with the column I selected. I selected a coin column, right? So I'll choose what's from selection. That's from the coin column. So I'll choose this option. So my end goal is I'm trying to create a new column where I'll extract just the coin names, right, in this new column. So when I come on here, right, I'll just type in the coin name, Bitcoin, right? And when I click on other rows, so the same pattern, right? It replicates the same pattern across all the other rows. So you can see it extracts just the coin name without the initials, right? And I can call this coin name, right? And hit OK. So I'm able to create a new column where I extract just the coin names. The same drill, right? I come down to the coin name, select it. From examples, selection again, right? This time now I'll extract just the initials. So I'll come on here, I'll just type BTC, and it also extracts all the initials. So I just call this coin abbreviation. So ABR abbreviation, yeah. BRF abbreviation, right? Okay. So I have the coin name, I have the abbreviation, right? So I don't need this column. Since I have the coin name and abbreviation, so I can do a right click here and remove this column. And this looks good. So you have all of this. So what I can do, I can move this. So I click on this, hold control, click on this. I highlight both. I'll just drag them to the beginning. So the second row, right? The coin number and then the coin name should come next. I think that makes sense. So I'll put that somewhere here. So number, coin name, abbreviation. So next thing I can do is so this looks clean, right? To an extent. So let's try to change the data type. Click on this, hold shift the last column, right? Choose the whole data. I'll come to transform and I'll choose the text data type, right? So let's cross check and look if it makes sense. This is a whole number 1, 2, 3 here. ABC, ABC. This is dollars for currency price. That makes sense. This percentage, this makes sense. Percentage, yeah, this all makes sense. This is dollars, yeah. Volume, market cap. Now FPV, right? When you look here, you see that this is a dollar, but it's showing as ABC. If I come here and change this to dollar, for example, replace current. So you see I have errors, right, in some cells. And these cells that have errors, when I go back to the previous step, you see what they have this dash, this hyphen there. So all those hyphens are the issue, right? So in Power Query, every column must have the same kind of data. I can't have, unlike Excel, where you can have a number in one row, a text in the next row, just like that. But in Power BI, they almost have the same data type, right? So here you have this hyphen, which is not really a number, and you have this number. When I change it to dollars, right, Power BI cannot recognize the hyphen as a number, so it throws up errors. So what I can do is I'll cancel this step, right, and I'll come back here and try to fix this hyphen here. So what we can do, right, the best way to represent empty cells, right, in Power Query is to use null value. So I'll click on this cell, right click, come down to replace value. And value to find, right, that's the hyphen. Replace with what? I'll type in null, right? That's how we replace blank values in Power Query. So I'm saying replace all the hyphens, right, with null values. So I hit OK. And you can see, right, all those hyphens are replaced with what? Null values. Now let's repeat the steps again now. So choose the whole columns, hold shifts and choose this. And then the text data type. Let's see if it works now. Yeah, so you can see, right, FTV now has the correct data type, which is dollars. Oh, okay, so let's do something. So this same thing, right, is also on these market cap / FTV column also. So let's do it for both columns at the same time. Replace values. It's now. Okay. Yeah, cool. So instead of doing it separately, let's do it together and then choose the whole data and text data type. Yeah, perfect. So this looks clean, right? I think our data looks clean now. So we are done cleaning our data. So the next thing now is we are trying to put data for all the columns, right? So let's say, for example, my manager, right, has asked me to pull data for the first 500 points. That's the first 5 pages, right? So let's see how we can do that. Currently, we have just the first page. How can we iterate and get multiple pages? So currently, I have 1 to 100. I have 1 to 100, right? And the website, this page 1 to 100. This is just page 1. So when you look at page 2, right, you see what's 101 to 200, just like that. So page 5, right? So let's see how we can iterate and get the first 500 coins. And the same thing, right? If you're trying to get to the last page, 130, the same thing also applies. So let me rename this. Let me just call this crypto data. So I mentioned earlier, right, that Power Query runs on the M code. So M code is what runs Power Query. You just drag and drop, but under the hood, Power Query is doing the heavy lifting, writing the M code Power Query we're trying to do. So let's go to the home tab, right? And there's this tab, right, called the advanced editor. Advanced editor, right? So when I click on this, this shows me all the steps that have been applied and the corresponding M code. So you have source, right? Source down to change type, right? So I click on advanced editor. So this showing you, right, all the steps that have been applied. So source, right? That's the M code. The next step down to what change type. So once you modify this code, right, and then try to have it, instead of just pulling page 1, you can pull page 1 to whatever number was specified, right? So give me a second. So for this, right, we need to modify the M code. So I come on here and I'll just put in a new line here. So here I'll put in a custom code, right? That says so use a parameter called page start. That will help us to iterate over the pages on our website. So I'll come here, I'll type in my parameter called page start as text. And here I'll put an equal to and to greater than, right? That's my parameter. So next thing I'll do is I'll come on to the source. So I did my source currently. This is my source. This is my source, right? So source is this web page. So now, right, instead of page 1, I want to use my parameter page start to iterate over this. So I'll put a colon. So I'll put I'll put these quotes rather, and then I'll have what an ampersand sign and my parameter page start, right? And also a closing ampersand sign. So this parameter, right, we'll use this to iterate over the web page and specify the number of pages we want to return, right? So once I have this, I hit done. And this is my parameter, right? So this is the page start parameter. So for example, page start, if I put in page 5, for example, right, and I invoke this, so it returns data for page 5. So you can see we're registering 401 down to it's showing 401, right, down to 500. So let me cancel this and do this. So these are parameter, right? This. So to complete our transformation, I will make a blank query. So I'll come to new source, right? New source. I'll come to blank query. So my blank query will be simply a list of numbers, right? From 1 to the number of pages I want to iterate. So for this, right, I will use what 5 pages. That's what I need. But if you want 130, for example, the whole data, then you put 130. Just that it will take some time to get all the data in, right? But I'll put 1 right to 5 and enter. Yeah, apologies. This should be curly braces, not parentheses like this, right? And then 105. Yeah. So this is like a list of numbers, right? And I can convert this to a table. So I just click this right at the top left to table. So I'm saying change this list to a table, right? So I click on this. None, yeah, okay. So this is my table, right? And I can rename the column. I can just call this what pages. And in my parameter, right? You know, we said what page start as text. So I need to make this to be in text format. So there'll be no errors. So this is in text format, right? So with this now, I can pass this table into our earlier code, right? Such that it iterates through these values 1, 2, 3 to 5, and return the data for these 5 pages, right? From 1 to 5. So what I'll do is I'll come on to add column, right? And I'll choose what invoke custom function. So I'll click on this, right? And my query is what crypto data, right? This is the fx, the function. And I'll use what I'll pass in pages, right? As the parameter into this crypto data. So from 1 to 5, right? We passed into the page start, and you have what those 5 pages will be returned. So I hit OK. Let's see what happens. So it returns this table, right? 1, 2, 3 to 5. So what I'll do is I'll come on here, right? And we have this icon here, right? It means we'll expand the table. So I'll expand this table by clicking on the icon here. And it loads the column names, right? These are the coins, the number down to the very last column. And it's asking me use original column as prefix. So I will uncheck this. I don't need this. So the other columns, right? Okay. So I hit OK. And let's confirm that we'll have all the data, right? So when I scroll down to the end, I should have 500 rows of data for pages 1 to 5. Yeah, so you have 500 rows of data, right? This looks okay. Yeah, so this is okay, right? So I don't think I need this page. You can take it off. This page, you can take it off. Remove this. So I have my like the first 500 rows of data, right? So I've been able to iterate via different pages, right? This is something that previously you need to use a scripting to like Python or R to do. But if you know how to manipulate encode, like we did in Power BI also. So once I have this, I can put and apply, right? And this should bring in my table into Power BI. So this is taking some time. So why that goes on? One last thing before we wrap up. So I have a PDF file, right? So there are times when you might want to analyze data from the PDF. Maybe you click on the PDF file. You want to analyze it in Excel, for example, or your BI tool, for example, right? This is the So let me open up this PDF file. So we see what it contains. Let's copy this to different. So I have this PDF file, right? This PDF file. Copy the PDF file. Yeah, the PDF file, right? And let's scroll down. Want to analyze the table from this PDF file. Yeah, this table, right? So paid speed recommendations. So what you can do is, okay, I come on here and copy this data, right? I copy it and take it to Excel to analyze it. So I'll copy this table. So this is my table, right? I control C. I copy the table and I go to Excel. So I can make a new sheet, for example. And I paste my table into Excel, right? And you can see instead of pasting it at the table, it's pasting it in just one row, right? So there's no way I can use this to analyze all this stuff, right? So there are ways to fix this, right? And one of the easiest ways is to use Power Query to connect to the PDF file and then do an analysis. So for some reason, let's see, it's taking time to apply changes. So it might be the strength of my network or something. But then while this is going on, I'll just come onto this initial file with this and connect to the PDF file. So I come on here, I get data, and I could connect to the PDF file. So I'll come on to more options. Yeah, so I come on and choose PDF, right? PDF and connect to the PDF file. This is my PDF file, right? Shooting at the cost. So this opens up the navigator. So this should be very, very fast. But I think because of we are doing something also with Power Query, this is affecting this. So what I'll do is I'll just cancel this for now. I'll do this for now. So while doing this, right, this should work very well for you. I've done this previously and it works. Just that I have a lot of things running currently. So that might be affecting the performance of that query. So we're able to connect to the PDF file. So we'll have a preview showing us the different tables on the PDF file. So what we'll do is we'll check all the tables and find the one that we are interested in, and then connect to that table and do any cleaning necessary and bring it to Power BI. So these are PDF file rights. These are the tables rights. So the one I need to find, what I need is table 24, because I've done this before, right? But then ideally you check through all the tables until you find the one you're interested in. So table 24, what you're interested in, right? So once I have this, I check this box and transform data. Awesome. So these are table, right? So I could take all these chain types here. I prefer to add it when I'm not doing my data. I can add that stuff. So this, so I can see that what's the first row, right? The columns, right? This first row is the actual column. So what we can do is we can promote this first row and make it the header. So this drop down here, right? I click on this drop down here and I'll choose use first row as headers. Then I choose this, right? It makes the first row to become the headers. So we went from this, right, column 1, column 2. So what's the actual column name? Recommendation grade. This change type, I'll still take it off. I don't need it now. So next thing I can do is yeah, things you can do, right. You could try to isolate the grade, right? So maybe the actual scores, you put it in a new column. So split column, right? And try to do that like before. And same thing also, right? You isolate the percentage and put it in a new column also. You know, let me just do that. Let me just do the one for this. So I could do a split column. I delete that. I use the rightmost space. Okay, that's percentage, right? Then I can remove this column. So I call it 80%. So the same thing, right? You could do it for the grade. You have grade and then score in a new column, right? Well, most of the time I'll just keep that. Use my table, right? I'll call this PDF reports. So once you have this, right, this looks clean. I can bring it into Power BI. So I click on click on apply. And note that I'm doing the reports on the same one we used for the sales report earlier, right? But then if you want to, you can make a new report. I'm doing this one in a separate report, right? So these are my reports. I have my data here in Power BI PDF reports, right? Then my columns, grade, priority, recommendation. So I could do a simple chart, for example, maybe a structure chart to put the grade or recommendation, and then put the percentage, for example, right? So, and if you want to, you could also your table, right? This is my table. To copy everything, Control A. Click on this. Shift this, right? It's really copy everything. Yeah, so copy table, right? Copy the table and take it to Excel if you want to. So you take your table to Excel if you want to. Or the same way, right? In Power Query. So if you want to go back to Power Query, so you just come to PDF reports and edit query, right? And go back to Power Query. So here I could also come to the PDF report, right? And click on the first column, last column, and then click on the first column and last column and copy. What's happening? Why do you have this? Okay, I'll just do Control C. For some reason, I'm not getting Control C. Copy this, right? And take it to Excel. I think it should work. Yeah, it works. So copy it to Excel, right? That works also. So this is how you could work with PDF, right? Using Power Query. And one last thing for a wrap up. So you could also connect to, let me close Power Query. You also connect to databases, right? Databases. So I have my database here. This is a SQL Server database, right? I have a table called patch and table. So using Power Query, I can connect to the database, get data, and I'll choose SQL Server, right? Just choose the appropriate data source. So this is SQL Server database, so I'll choose SQL Server. And it brings up the prompts. So it asks me for my server name. So I'll come on here, right? And I'll just get this server name. So this is my server name, desktop. This. I'll copy the server name and go back to Power Query and put that here. So you can put database, right? That's optional. I can put the name patch and pose it. I could leave that and choose the data from the prompt. So you can use import mode or direct query, right? So import mode means that Power BI will import a copy of your database, right? Of your tables into Power BI. While direct query, Power BI will connect to the data in your database, right? So any change you make, you just write SQL queries under the hood and returns the data for that query. So I hit OK, and this should open up in Navigator. We have to see all the different databases, right? So this is the employee patch and posing store DB. If you look at my SQL Server, right, when I open it, you see I have three databases, which are DB employee, patch and posing, and store DB, right? So the exact same thing I'm seeing them in employee patch and posing. So I want this database patch and posing, and I want to return let's say I want to return a couple of tables from the database, maybe the orders table, the accounts table, and the sales rep table, for example. So once I have this right, you will choose transform data. And most times, database is right. Data is most times it's been cleaned already by the database admin or the data engineers. You just connect and start analyzing. But then it's great to always check and see if there are things you need to change. Or maybe you need to do some transformation or do some join and stuff like that. So once I have this tables, right, I click on transform data and it opens up Power Query. So you have a preview of your tables. Yeah, then my tables, right? Orders, accounts, and sales rep. So just to reiterate, right, this stuff would normally be fast, but I think I have a lot of stuff running behind the scenes on my laptop as I was taking time like this. So orders, accounts, sales reps, right? When you bring this in, you just check the tables and see if you need to clean anything. So most times, like I said, right, data in database they are mostly clean. You can see the types look correct, data looks clean enough, right? So I could just load this to Power BI. So it's great to always cross check and be sure that data is in the right format. So once you're done right, you can apply this. And this loads data into Power Query. So I forgot something. This is the same query I use for the website stuff, and it's taking a lot of time. So while this is loading, right? Anyone has any questions, you could type in the chat or raise your hand before we round up also. So I hope this doesn't take time as before. For some reason, the query from the web page, that's the first one, query one, that was taking time. I'll just cancel this and go back to our query. So I'll go back to Power Query, click on this transform data. So what I'll do is I'll just disable load for this query. So I'm saying don't bring this into Power BI yet, just leave it unchecked. And then I apply this. This should not take any time now. So the website query, right? Either the website is very busy currently, or possibly the network is not strong enough to pull data. But when I did it earlier today, right, it worked very, very fast. So once you do it on your end, it should work very well. If you have any issues, you just when you check the video, you can type on the comments if you have any issues, and I'll try to attend to them as soon as I can. So this is data from the database, right? Orders table, accounts table, and sales rep table. This should not take much time. If you have it in here. Yeah, awesome. So just to clarify, right, what I did was that I just disabled the load for the website query that we did earlier and just brought in just a database query. So these are our table, right? Accounts table, orders table, and sales rep table. So you could make whatever charts and build your models, right? So this Power Query in action helps you connect your data and clean, shape, transform, pre-process your data before bringing it into Power BI. So in the absence of no questions, right? Thank you all very much for your time, and I'll catch you guys in the next section.